I would like to, if you wouldn't mind, I would love to hear, because I read through scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I read through your scenes. I watched your clips.
Cool.
And first of all, just want to compliment you on your you've just nailed their voices. Like you just really captured it. It's so vivid that I can hear Ford saying Ford's lines and Gibson saying Gibson's lines.
Love that. Cool. Same.
And I love that with all of them. And I think just even as isolated scenes, they're intriguing to read. Just out of context, are intriguing to read, and really enjoy them. I would love to hear about the scene at the bar. Because I was attaching the scenes, each one that I read, attaching it to what I interpreted as its corresponding spec.
Mm-hmm.
So
this
one's the dramedy, the brother that's dying and the brother that comes to him, and then this one is the Lakeview Terrace?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Which I saw years ago at my grandma's house in Indianapolis. I have a very special category of movies of where I was just up late at my grandma's house and it just happened to be on TV at the right time. I forgot that chainsaw scene though. That was there's some great moments in that. So anyway, that to say that I was attaching which one goes to which.
Mm-hmm.
I wondered as I was reading the bar scene. Walk me through that a little bit. Walk me through where do you think that belongs and where do you see that going?
Oh, okay, so I don't know exactly where to start. I kind of want to preface something. I have one big pitch that would, if we decided to do it, would narrow the direction for us immediately with the potential to insert most of the ideas we've pitched.
I'm listening.
Okay. And the train of thought was through this bar scene. So did you watch the Straight Story bar scene?
Yes, I did.
David Lynch directed that. I remember being very...
Blew my mind. Sorry. When I
looked that dude. Up. That's awesome. Good.
Yeah.
Rated G. Great movie. I watched it in college, rented it from the library.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the most impactful scenes by far for me. For obvious reasons. I mean, it's just...
There's some heartbreaking backstory to the shooting of that film and the actual Richard... I can't recall his last name, but what he was going through while they were making it. And then suicide the next year.
Whoa.
Did you know that bit?
No.
80 years old. And just a couple months after the Academy Awards, 2000. Yeah, would have been the year 2000. Yep.
Had no idea.
It was bone cancer, I think he was suffering from. And yeah.
I wonder if David Lynch has spoken about that. Do you know?
Didn't look into it much beyond that, but I mean, right away I was like, I want to see the whole movie. because there is a really tender the vulnerability in that scene. And again, just no show. It's just feels him. So that to say, yes, I did watch that scene. Yep.
Very cool. So something that I had in mind is for Harrison to be a therapist and for Mel to be just a nutcase. Both in their old age, they both have something to teach one another. I'm thinking like a Good Will Hunting vibe, but also a straight story. Very tender. It'd be tender subject matter. I'm thinking like PTSD. So that was my thinking with that. But then that sent me down this train of thought, dude, that is genuinely so exciting. Because what if we rewrote Cape Fear? And what I mean by that is not necessarily the Martin Scorsese one, 1991. There was a clip of that too, I think. In that.
Yep, but you're talking the original.
I'm talking 1962.
Yeah,
which is two old guys. It's two old dudes, and this would be Cape Fear, with Ford being a therapist or former therapist. I think that's the guy. What the guy is, and then Max Lucado or whatever the thug's name is gets released out of prison, which already coincides with an idea that you and I had, which you could include forgiveness in. You could include mortality, holding a grudge with a revenge story. You could include stalker, all in this one script. So I changed it. And I changed it because in the scene that I posted from Martin Scorsese's Cape Fear, he does knock them out. He only knocks them out.
Yeah.
But in having him just shoot the three thugs that come to kill him, and then he can still say counselor, that would be a nod to Indiana Jones.
Oh,
that's
shit! Yeah.
That was my thinking there. That would be a nod.
Oh, nice.
So we could have anything, and it could be Cape Fear with as many inspirations as the Joker had going into that movie.
Right. That was
it would just be a smorgasbord in the Cape Fear story, but deriving from Mel Gibson movies, Harrison Ford movies into one package and called Cape Fear. So that was a pitch that I had that would be very specific. It would lock us in to something.
Yeah.
Kind of, but for some reason that seems to be the most exciting genre to me, despite the other projects that or genres we're also discussing.
Yeah.
Because I would love something like Straight Story, but I need a hook, and that hook, I need this project, the sound of this project to be just as interesting as the content that they would read.
Yes.
Whether it's like, oh, these two kids are pitching an anthology series to us. Oh, wow, that's interesting. I'm just spitballing there, but
right.
The sound of the project needs to come with the hook. Instead of something vague, like say an agent is like, oh, we just received this script, this screenplay. Oh, what's it about? Read the summary. It needs to be like something familiar that they would know. Hey,
Interesting.
pitched a full screenplay to you and Harrison Ford. It's a remake of Cape Fear. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I love that.
I guess I'm not asking for any decisions right now, but just wanted to pitch that to you.
I love it, and there's still, because the two, like the original Cape Fear and the Scorsese Cape Fear, are different enough from each other. You could take liberties with this one, you know. So it wouldn't be just a sudden like what the fuck,
Yeah,
but it wouldn't at the same time it wouldn't be what they've seen before. And I think that's really smart with something that is familiar to them, not just a, because that's what one of the things that I kept like kicking myself for with going through just the last couple days. Like I was looking for that that 3-word or like 5 words or less pitch that would just sell. Like I'm
Western space. Yeah.
Yes, I was that the one that was and it always is the first one that comes to my head is Alien, with Jaws in space, 3 words.
Yep.
Instantly, like yes, absolutely. And I've just been kicking myself for a Jaws in space to be able to just say that.
Aliens in the water was great too, dude.
Yes.
That sounds so unthreatening.
Aliens in the water. Which was the original title for Signs, I believe, on the subject of Mel Gibson.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yes, so I think the Cape Fear, 2 words, even less, like all the better. Cape Fear, new Cape Fear. I think that's beautiful and would certainly catch my attention. And I think the roles are very well suited for them, not just the other way around, but
have you seen
the
the
roles
original?
themselves.
I have not.
The original I have not seen.
Okay.
Yeah, and that would incorporate pretty much like each of those little scenes that you attached in that document could be fit into that.
Yeah, that's why I let them be vague enough to just fit them anywhere.
Yeah.
I love that you. I wrote some discussion notes down, and I love that you were kind of tackling what sounded like bigger picture outline stuff, whereas I was tackling very specific moments that I would love to, interactions that I would love to be seen, and I like that mixture. I'll be curious to see if that will blend moving forward.
I can do what I did last time and just kind of go through bit by bit what I put together in this note, and then between Cape Fear and between whatever the fuck this is, we can find a common ground.
No doubt.
And because I went with the prison thing. I went with the lifetime sentence gets released, readjusting into, except I believe in the original I had in the idea I pitched last time was Ford playing the gentleman released from prison, like carrying the age, the like that, Ford's life from the time he entered jail to Ford today. Totally different world, and just stepping into a totally different world and playing on that kind of Shawshank thing, which is something that's still like I'm interested in, and it's still kind of it's sitting in the back of my head a little bit,
Like
but
that.
for the purpose of this one, I did switch the roles. So stay with me here, because and if it, feel free, chip in at any point if something just is making absolutely no sense.
Sure.
And a lot of this was just first instinct, what came to me as I was going through.
Okay.
Mel Gibson is granted parole after 40 years serving a life sentence. His trial and crime, whatever it was huge, perhaps not for the crime severity, but for the controversy surrounding his supposed innocence and or guilt. Think to the level of like OJ's, like that sort of level of sensationalized trial and such. So a fall from grace sort of thing. That Gibson was a respectable, perhaps, and that was that's one idea. Either which way, one thing seems clear right from the get-go. Gibson is honestly repentant for his actions. Harrison Ford, meanwhile, is a retired police detective, newly situated nursing home resident who spends the majority of his days hating everyone and everything around him and cursing whatever condition it is that has landed him there. Undecided. I didn't know whether to limit it to a physical condition or mental or both, but just something that sort of sped up the necessity to get him into a place with care.
Yeah.
So he strongly feels that he doesn't belong there compared with his fellow residents. His one source of joy comes from his infrequent visits from his wife, who lives in the way too chipper retiree village surrounding them. She's happy. He's anything but. News reaches Ford that Gibson is out of jail. Ford argues with wife about her not being upset and or destroyed by it, as in her not being destroyed by the fact that he has come out. So there's an allusion in here to Gibson's crime being connected to Ford's late son and or daughter, but we don't know much beyond that. Wife insists that she has made her peace with the past. This is a breaking point for Ford. Even his own wife is buying into this repentant criminal bullshit. Ford, quote, breaks out of his residence to take matters into his own hands. This is a breaking point for Ford. Even his own wife is buying into this repentant criminal bullshit. So Ford, quote, breaks out of his residence to take matters into his own hands. He sneaks into his house, collects his evidence box, basically a collection of stalker material, e.g. Info about Mel's family, wife, kids, etc. Takes off with his old-timey car, which he hasn't driven in forever and definitely should not be driving given his current condition. Off he goes to seek retribution. Meanwhile, Mel Gibson is getting settled, acclimated, all that fun stuff. I saw in my head there was a scene of like him trying to get some like flirtatious banter going with his female parole officer, like much younger, attractive female parole officer. Just this really uncomfortable attempt at banter, unsuccessfully. As far as the parole officer and the public and or media are concerned, Mel is going to be devoting his time to writing and or philanthropy. I had a thought that maybe he's one of those prisoners who wrote a cute little inspirational children's book while in jail, like one of those types that you get the guys in sometimes on death row that get a book published about like and sometimes it is literally a children's book of just like, hey kids, don't do this, don't do what I did. So I wondered maybe if room to play on that perhaps.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. In reality, his efforts are going to be devoted to trying to connect with his estranged daughter and or grandchildren. virtually at first, but very unsuccessfully. So we start to see his inner chaos start to rear its head with a few subtle cracks in his reformed facade. Meanwhile, Ford kind of revives his old detective aura, so to speak. So he's working to cover. You get a little bit of like the '90s Ford with the Fugitive of his on the run, covering his tracks. He's got the knowledge from, in the Fugitive. It's like he's got the doctor knowledge, so he can take the bullet out of his side. And I was picturing, his a retired detective. Way out of his league, but still having the knowledge to be able to cover his tracks, because to the rest of the world, his kind of just breaking out of this nursing home is a like, we have an old, unwell, retired detective missing. So that would be sort of a ongoing, I can't remember the specific term for so it's not the main threat, but it's the threat beneath the main threat.
Yeah.
As far as what his wife is trying to do to get him back, and her own paranoias about like, oh, my husband, like the things that he could be getting himself into. Like, this is just, see.
Ford is trying to prove that this man still is messing with,
yes,
still a sinner,
There's a part of him that's it's trying to break the little facade, which is a thin facade. That's something that I would want to play with, is that Gibson is, however reformed he says he is, you still see the cracks as things are going along.
But he fools other people around.
I was wondering, maybe one of the mechanisms of showing that is that Gibson, wherever he is settled and or acclimated, having come from a high profile case and a sensationalized trial and whatnot, maybe battling some harassment from some neighbors, like a couple hostile neighbors with a like, we know who you are, we know what you did, we know you were guilty, like that kind of shit, that just kind of test his facade.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how maybe we
show that. I like that.
Yeah. So that like so harassment from some hostile neighbors, Gibson doing his best to keep his cool, but it's pretty obvious that this isn't going to end well. So that's the stuff that I put together in a note. And I am 100% on board for ditching it and doing nothing with it, doing one thing with it, doing two things with it. I sat down, I settled on the prison thing, and then I just wrote.
Yeah.
So that's what I spat up, essentially.
I can't really help it, but I see that story through the lens of Cape Fear. With anything that's not similar being a creative twist on the Cape Fear story.
And
maybe that's limiting to see it just through that lens, but I feel like I'm just connecting everything back to Cape Fear. Because the prison thing is totally prevalent in the Cape Fear story.
Yes.
Max Lucado's getting out of prison, and he just so happens to want revenge, and he's going to stalk, but everybody knows he's a bad guy. I would take the rape stuff out of the story, out of the Cape Fear, and maybe direct that towards kidnapping of Ford's daughter. Something that could still totally be done, because I'm down to take a different look at how stalking can actually be done. Stalking can be done with a smile on your face, and you have everybody else, with that thin facade. Everybody else fooled except for that one dude.
Yeah. Yep.
One dude is thinking it's been 40 years. I remember I f***ed up. Does this dude even remember that? Does he think about it every day? And yeah, in return, infiltrating his life to find out some. Come up short mostly every time. Yeah. I really see wide open opportunities for a blend of what you just read and what I just pitched.
Yes. Because even having just like heard your take with Cape Fear, just reading it now to you, I was like, this is sort of like the anti-Cape Fear almost.
Yeah, totally.
The guy who gets out and then
but I love
he's the victim.
Dude, I love the anti-Cape Fear in the Cape Fear.
Yes.
That is awesome. But the stalking, man, they're both stalking one another in this new idea.
It puts Gibson on the defense.
Yeah.
Whereas previously I had him on the offense against Ford being the recently released. And I see Ford as the fragile, the quote honorable, now fragile figure. Because Gibson's still got some grit too. I mean, I think like I see grit in both of them. The difference I just see like on the fragility level, Ford.
Yeah.
On the grit level, Gibson.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I see them up against each other. And so I want to play to those strengths while also leaving room for subversion of expectation. Maybe you and I could both bring a different Cape Fear to the table at our next meeting.
Yes.
Yeah. So like
okay.
I mean, in a sense, we both did already just tonight. I just wasn't aware of the Cape Fear that was in what I had done, but being aware of it, we could go one of a couple different ways. We could both present a, here's what I like, all things considered, my Cape Fear, starring Mel Gibson, Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Or we just start documenting, or just start writing. I don't know. I mean, I'm open to really any approach. You put together 3, 2-page just little excerpts that were a delight to read, and I'm
maybe just come at it with a full treatment.
Right on.
Full treatment with fresh Cape Fear information. like both movies watched.
Yep.
And looked into, and then maybe if there's a source material like a book or a script, I was already looking into getting a script.
I was just asking myself in my head, I was like, is Cape Fear based on a book? Because I am coming at this almost completely blind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing, okay, here, The Executioners is a psychological thriller suspense novel written by John D. MacDonald, published in 1957.
Whoa.
The loose basis for Cape Fear. It was filmed twice under the title Cape Fear, once in 1962 and again in 1991.
Dude.
The first film adaptation is more faithful to the novel, with the 1991 adaptation being considerably more brutal and violent. So here's a new challenge for me, is to actually read a book successfully for the first time in
Dude, I would buy it.
A year or so. And I mean, maybe what we end up making is The Executioners, you know?
Dude,
like
honestly,
so
yeah.
let's dig into all of it. Let's absorb all of it. And yeah.
I'll buy that book. Whether it's sent to me or online, I'll buy it.
Sweet. Excellent.
I like it, dude. I feel settled in to something.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like I just put my seatbelt on, so I'm excited.
Well, thank you for making the connection.
Yeah.
Because I think it's one thing to put together a great script written by a couple of, like, you know, unpublished script writers, and like, hey, this is a good script written for Harrison Ford Mel Gibson. It's another thing to have a name for it beyond just the names involved in it. I think there might be an advantage to that for sure. So
I love it.
Likewise. So treatments. Good treatments. Excellent.
Yeah, I like this.
I like it too, man. I'm excited.
Yeah. Yeah, to say the least.
Yes.
Yeah.
And keep me in the loop on your other projects, Netflix and foreign and otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll let the audience think that's a joke.
Yeah.